Welcome to Vail Academy and High School. You are in the NPR of our school, and my name is Dennis Barger, and I have the privilege of being the principal of Vail Academy and High School. Many of you watching this are students who are returning to us in a new grade level. Others are joining us for the first time, and this is your first experience inside our campus. So welcome. What I'm going to do is spend just a little bit of time walking you through the history of our school. How did we get to be where we are? How did that happen? And its story starts when we weren't Vail Academy and High School, but we were Vail High School. So a long time ago, our district started in 1903, and so a lot of people think Vail's a new district. It is not a new district. It is older than a lot of other school districts, believe it or not. It was a rural school district for a long time. Obviously, that's changed today now that we have well over 14,000 students in our school district. But most of those students have come in the last 20 or so, 20 to 30 years. And so you can see what our numbers were in the past and how we've begun to grow. But in 8th grade, students would finish school in Vail, and then they would have to go to another school district. They'd either have to go to Benson School District, Sarita School District, or even into TUSD for some of their choices. So we did not have a high school, and so we would bus kids to those schools. So what's the solution? The solution was to get our own high school. And so the question of being a unified school district or not a unified school district, that really was the issue. And so Vail tried to unify and become the Vail Unified School District, in which case local bond dollars would be used to have residents pay for their own high school. That vote failed by actually less than 10 votes, and this was in the 1990s. So what that meant was there was going to be no high school in Vail. That's what everyone thought. Somebody came up with a creative solution. Why not open a charter high school? Anyone in the 90s could open a charter high school, including school districts. So the question became, why don't we do that? What are our options? So charter schools are public schools, but they're operated differently. And so our governing board was able to open a charter school using new laws that were created in the 1990s. And that school opened for about 100 students to attend. Over the next 13 years, that school focused on grades 9 through 12. As many as 200 students went there at any given time, but normally it was about 160 students. One year, we actually split campus, and we had 10th, 11th, and 12th graders come in the morning, and freshmen and an alternative program come in the afternoon. That program looked through a little different. That afternoon program changed a few times. Eventually, it became what we today consider Pantano High School. We dropped the word charter from our name, and this is what our school looked like for the first 13 years. Located about 1.5 miles that way in those big white buildings, now referred to as the U of A Tech Park. Used to be called the IBM complex. IBM built that, sold it to the U of A. That's why our bond didn't pass. Eventually, we got a school, and they opened it up. They charged us $1 for 2 years to have space in building 9040, and that's where our high school was for the first 13 years, and that was Vail's first high school, opening back in 1997. We introduced the senior exit project, and many of you are aware that that's a graduation requirement in our school district. Our high school was the first to do this. Here's one student's woodworking project related to his SCP. Our school reduced in size from that 200 that we'd hit that one year once we opened Cienega High School and then Empire High School. And so we settled in, and we typically ran at about 150 students a year. We had a very tight space for our old school. It's kind of an interesting piece. You actually had literally 5-foot hallways for 160 students and teachers to have their passing period. So it was kind of like, excuse me, as you would go. But it made everyone know who everyone else was because we were small and together. We used to have lunch together in the cafeteria that was on the U of A Tech Park proper. It is no longer a cafeteria over there, but we had the best food in the district because they were serving 7,000 adults many of whom made salaries of upward of $200,000, so they would make sure that they were fed well. So there were really good meal options. Saddest part about moving to school here was that we no longer had access to that cafeteria. So, going to school on the U of A Tech Park campus, that's what high school kids in Vail did until Cienega opened, and then families had a choice between the big comprehensive high school of Cienega and that more small private feeling of our high school. So my personal connection is I was the first high school teacher hired by the Vail School District. I was hired the year Vail Charter High School opened, and I was on staff there for 4 years, including running that alternative program in the afternoon before going to Cienega. When Cienega was built, I was the first assistant principal, and after 5 years at Cienega, there was an opening at the principal job at Vail High School. I came back, I applied for the job, I got the job, and they told me after I accepted the job that it was my job to move the high school. In the picture here, you'll notice the plane here represents Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. What had happened is the city and the county got together with Davis-Monthan Air Force, and they drew their flight zone, and it extends over what is now the the U of A Tech Park where our school was. So you can't have bases, you can't have schools or preschools or churches in the flight zone of the military, so we had to move the school out. Not something normally schools have to do. They don't normally move. So we got a planning committee together, and we focused on what we're going to do, what we're going to make unique, how things were going to change with our new school. And in 2008, 2009, we began to make some progress. So, a little timeline, because most of you watching this had not started school, and some of you weren't even born at this time, right? And so in 2008, we brought a committee together, and we said, we have to move the high school. What are we going to do? We were thinking about building a high school and a preschool on the campus. That obviously didn't happen, and ultimately we built Vail Academy and High School, a K-12 school. And we decided that we would add those K-8 grades all at one time. So in 1 year, we went from 4 high school grades to 13 grades. And so we filled up those 9 new grades the year we moved here, which was 2010-11. We said we're gonna have a bigger high school and 1 classroom per grade level K-8. That's changed. We now have 2 classrooms at 6th, 7th, and 8th, and less kids in high school. And we really wanted to focus on maintaining our small culture that makes our school so unique. So, we broke ground. That means the tractors came out and started moving land on this school on the last day of November in 2009. Some project work here was being done. And then in less than 8 months, our school was completed. That is really, really fast to build a school. We did not know if we were going to get in time. In fact, we were putting furniture in the school the weekend before we opened. All right, so there's some initial pictures. You've been on a tour, and so as you walked around, I encourage you to notice those trees are nowhere close to the same size. This is the little tree out right behind where this camera is pointing right now, out here to the right. And directly behind you is the biggest tree on campus, which right here was shorter than me and is now well over 30 feet tall. So if you want to get a chance when you're on campus to look at the growth in 10 years, you'll see a difference. So this was the day we opened, July 23rd, 2010. We opened the school with a whole bunch of new grades, a whole bunch of new faces, and the same principal. And so that was me after I knocked a couple kindergartners off to prove that I was king of the mountain and everything was good. And our first year was kind of interesting because we were such a unique model as a K-12 school. We were invited to appear on the Morning Blend on ABC. We also got a visit from our governor right there at the time. Jan Brewer came by and checked out our school because it was unique and she wanted to see what we were doing. And we began interacting with little kids and big kids. And so we've got some activities that we did that first year with the little guys and the high school kids. And one of the things that just makes our school unique is our graduation experience. So students who stay with us and graduate from high school here are treated to a great experience at graduation where they are honored. We also have the only traditional senior trip to California. I think a couple of schools might do it, but they don't bring 50 to 70% of their high school seniors like we do. That's something you can look forward to if you decide to stay here and graduate from Vail High School. And on our campus, you'll see that we have a lot of technology, once you get to come to campus, that is. Then we have smaller class sizes than most schools. Our teachers are phenomenal, but the neat thing about them is you often have the same teachers multiple times over the years, so you get to build a relationship with your teachers in a way that other schools just simply can't provide. And then finally, just a quick who's who, some names you can get used to so that when you're on campus, you know who you're looking for. As I said, my name is Dennis Barger. I am the principal. Mr. Valderrama has been walking you around campus and pointing things out to you today. Our student achievement teacher is Ms. Parker. Her office is up front, right next to our counselor, Mr. Gutman. And then our office manager is Ms. Kaparoff, and some ladies in the front office are Mrs. Sagala and Mrs. Snodgrass, and then Mrs. Neff is in our health aid office, and these ladies are very important to making our school run. So if you need them, track them down, introduce yourself, and ask them for any help you need. That's what they are here for. Did I leave anyone off the list? Oh, Mr. Gutman, I already mentioned. Mr. White, he's our site tech coordinator. His office is right outside our NPR. It's a little drive-up window. Like if you're thinking you want French fries, go see him. He'll actually help you with computers, not French fries, but it does look like a drive-through window. And that's about it in terms of our campus. So I hope you have enjoyed your orientation today, and I know it's not what you had expected, and we're trying to do our best to make your transition to our school or new grade at our school as successful as possible. Thank you, and look forward to seeing you when we're allowed back on campus.